Okay, guys. Thank you. Thanks to everyone. Thanks to everyone for coming to this event and seeing this incredible. I think the developments really came out well, and the staging. We just restaged this apartment, which is 6C, and there's some availability information on the table, and there's also a few other apartments that are open. One is 8A, which was staged by IMG. This was staged by Ash. And we also have another apartment that was recently restaged on the 3rd floor, 3B. All the doors are open. You're welcome to take a look at them. And there's availability list there. We're about, of the available units, we're about half sold. And we've got a lot of, we've had actually a reasonable amount of activity this week. And I don't know if that's happening across the board with all of you, but it seems to have picked up a little bit. And we're hoping that continues. And obviously, we're all hoping it continues into the fall. But we will hear from experts and their opinion as to what's going on now and what will be happening in the future as well. So for those of you who don't know Donna and Noah, they are good friends of mine, my favorite people. They're also highly analytical. Donna's had her own company, founded her company in 1980, and has been in the business and really, I think, probably one of the foremost experts on what is really happening in the market. I think that her insights and her advice and her, not to mention weekly, for those of you who don't know it, above $4 million report, you all must see it and know it if you don't already, is invaluable to our community and really gives us a lot of information, and she has incredible, amazing insights. And I'm delighted she's here. Thank you. And Noah has been working on an analytical website that he has developed, Urban Digs, which he'll tell you about, because I still can't figure out the exact everything about it, except for that it provides not only analytics on all parts of the market, which is amazing. I'm analytical, and there's a lot there. There's a lot of stuff there that you can use. But also it's really great now, and he's selling it to different companies, and maybe some of you are part of it, where you can have buyers on it and sellers, and you can do the analytics with your buyers and your sellers. And it's a really interesting site, and it's something you should investigate if you don't know about it. He'll be happy to talk to you about it. It's a terrific, terrific platform. But he also has incredible insights on the market. So thank you, Noah. Thank you, Donna. And I'm going to turn it over to you. Unfortunately, Daniel, who is the moderator, doesn't. I had questions for you, but you have them as well. But first of all, just give us a little bit of what you see as the overall market at this point in time.
I always let Noah go first, and then
because you want to just find out what's wrong and beat me down for it.
We have a thing going. All
so
right.
Let's just disclose. I mean, we did talk last night about this to try to plan something, right? And we wanted to just disclose right front that I am not a practicing broker anymore. I am not in the field. Donna is in the field and working. So there's going to be different perspectives. My perspective is really going to be from the data side of it, right? Her perspective is going to be from the data and what she actually sees in the field. So right off the bat, if I take a step back and look at this from like a macro point of view, where we came from and where we are right now, I think the peak of this last cycle was somewhere around late 2014 and crawling into mid-2015. And this down cycle, what was different about it was that it was very price point specific in nature. I think we talked about this last time at the panel. What happened in the 10 million plus super luxury market, what happened in the 5 to 10 million sector, and what happened in the 2 million under sector was very, very, very different. It's a fragmented marketplace. New development and higher end got hurt very hard. You will see some new developments and higher ends over, say, 7.5, 8 million, 10 million, trading at 20, 25% down right now compared to 2014. The broader market peaked out in mid-2015. So at the high end peaked out in late 2014. It was the first to kind of get hit. And then the broader market held on until mid-2015. And then 1 million under market kind of held on until mid-2016. But I would say the last 10 months to a year, the lower end started to get affected. And if we want to go even sooner, I think the high end is starting to come, like the 5 million up crowd, even the 3 million and up crowd is starting to pick up. We're very early in that stages of that pickup. And this kind of market, when we say a pickup, we're talking about contracted activity, right? We're talking about listings that go from active to in contract, and we're starting to see some action going on. But if you sign a contract today, how long does it take to close? 3 months? And when that closes, how long does it take for the city register to get that public record filed? Another month to 3 months.
No,
so,
they're quicker now.
Well, they're not 100%, right? So I would say in a month, 50% are filed. In 2 months, 85% are filed. In 3 months, you got up to 95%. That's kind of how it works. But the point is, the sales data we're seeing right now is not real-time listing data. We're seeing a real-time pickup in contract activity, but the sales data is showing the worst of the worst.
The closed sales data.
Closed sales data, right, is showing the worst. Like absorption rate is the weakest number that we've seen in the last 6 years. Listing discount is the weakest number I've seen in 6 years. Okay, these are all telling me that the market is not fierce. The market's dead. The market's down. We're at the bottom. We're maturing in the cycle. But the real-time activity is starting to show a pickup over the last 6-7 weeks, which is strange because it's July and August. And we usually don't have it this time.
Yes, but a lot of that activity has to do with the fact that the sellers come to the conclusion and they capitulate. They say, listen, let's lower our price. The brokers become more aggressive. They start to read articles in Bloomberg and in the mass media, and they come to the conclusion that they have to lower their price. Everything about this market, absolutely everything, is price point. It is our only tool that we have in the toolbox now. You can do all of this, which is great stage, but ultimately it comes down to what is the price. And August is always a very good time for a buyer because, and I say that to any buyer, this is your time because you want to get in there before, when these people are getting desperate, they don't want to be competing against the fall inventory, and now is the time to put in your offer. So it would not surprise me that if some of these deals getting done, and right now these contracts that are being signed are at significantly lower than their ask. And I would say to the broker now that you should not feel embarrassed and tell your clients you're going to put the budget up because you never know what that seller's going to take. We're seeing unusual things, and even wasn't it you that told me that the closed sales point relative to the original ask there's a huge differential.
The listing discount. Yeah.
But what I want to tell you, a couple things. You know, I only cover the $4 million and above market. That's really the market that I cover in terms of contract signs. So everybody's saying to me, it's really bad and it feels bad and it's da-da-da-da-da. But here's the thing. We're not really far off from last year. We're basically trending with last year. The biggest difference is that it's more days on the market and there's more negotiability. But in terms of actual number of contracts, we're really right there with last year, the number at $4 million and above. So that was an interesting thing. But you understand that our market and the luxury market is a collection of submarkets. So if you go down and you get granular, let me give you a statistic that I found to be interesting. On the Upper West Side, where we are, at $4 million and above, since June 1st, there have been only 3 co-op contracts signed. That's it. That's not a lot.
Wow.
Okay? So there was one in June, which was 180 Riverside 13F. There was one in July, which was the penthouse at 6 West 77. And then yesterday, 300 West End Avenue penthouse B got marked as contract signed. So that's an interesting stat. Now, if I go and I do that same thing, and I do it in the Village, Greenwich Village.
Is that only co-op you said?
Co-op.
Okay.
Only co-op. I use that same formula in the Village. There are only 4 that have been signed in co-ops at $4 million and above since May the 10th in Greenwich Village. That's it. So what we have is at $4 million and above is this very, very bifurcated market. Last week, for the first time since September of 16, we had not one single co-op go to contract at $4 million above in the entire of Manhattan.
Which is amazing. Okay. Well, people don't want co-ops in as much anymore.
So it shows you where the shift is. The shift is that you know, everybody is really looking at the condos. The condos are driving it. Now, interestingly enough, Jonathan Miller says new development is only 13% of the whole market. That's what he said on Bloomberg in July. But it's over 40%. Lately it's around 46% of my report is new development at 4 million and above. So it just shows you where the consumer is at. It's condominium, and what is that? The differential, I think, will stay for a while until the co-ops come to the conclusion that they need to change, and they need to change to a co-op with condo rules, so that they don't lose their low tax real estate taxes.
I just want to say one thing. You know, I'm wondering, a lot of sellers are still aspirational right now. I mean, at all times, I think there are different types of sellers. I think there are sellers that have to sell. There are sellers that are just testing the market. And then there are sellers that they would like to sell, but they have to get their price, whatever. Everyone wants to get a good price for their apartment. But these sellers in the higher price points, it's an illiquid market. Real estate's illiquid in general, okay? And if you realize it, when you look at the building, most sellers will look at their building. They're not going to go outside their building. Most sellers will just look at their building and look at the last couple of comps in their building, and sometimes there's not a lot of sales. And the last sale is 2015, 2016, and it's like, all right, I'm 9A, and 7A closed for 3.9 million in 2015, and they think they're anchored to that, and they think they're doing all right, I'm 8 floors higher, I got a renovation, they're doing that in their head, but they think naturally that, all right, well, I'm going to get 5% higher than that last comp. Sellers just naturally want to get the highest sale in the building. And I'm wondering if a lot of agents are not explaining to the sellers that this market is not the same as it was 3 years ago. And if you look at that comp from 3 years ago, we should probably deduct 10% off of that. How many people, I'm just asking before you retort, how many agents are literally sitting there and showing you, here's the price per square foot over the last 3 years and how it's down. Here's absorption rate that's showing you how the velocity of the market is 10 times slower than it was 3 years ago. Here's listing discount, which is showing sellers were getting 99.5% of their ask 3-4 years ago, and now they're getting 94% of their ask. Are agents having these conversations with the seller? And I don't think they are. I think a lot, well, I mean, some are, some aren't, but I think a lot of sellers...
Depends on their skill level.
A lot of sellers need to be managed. Their expectations need to be managed from the get-go. Coming in there 3 months later and showing that the market changed doesn't really reflect well on you. Have the conversation up front without insulting the person. All right? I'm not telling you to lose an exclusive listing, but I think sellers naturally don't understand what this market has done the last 3 years.
Let me just say, I want to say something before you jump in. You're right about all that, but we are, 2018, this is a different market because we have this SALT tax thing. So we haven't seen a major tax change since about 1986. Yeah. This is, you know, something that I believe has infected the bloodstream here. Let's face facts. You can no longer deduct your state and local taxes, and all of us who sell these units, our buyers have 6 figures in state and local taxes, sometimes 7 figures. That's a big bite out of their pocket and out of their net, and you can't not you've got that is really one of the biggest things I think that has affected our market, has put a huge damper on our market, is SALT tax.
Well,
Donna, how about the 1% increase, at least in interest rates? That's very palpable. That in and of itself, if you look at nothing else, that can soften your market by about 5%. Because it's that, depending on your price point, it's that much of the buying power. And I think the market between $4 and $10 million is super sensitive on that. A lot of people are looking to finance 75% of a very big amount. Over $10 million is sort of irrelevant to those people.
Yeah, I think you cannot lose sight of that. That's true. But the combination of both and the overall global dysfunction and chaos is just not good for our audience. So how do we counteract that? So I want to make it kind of simple. This is what I do. I always do the Olympic swimming pool analogy to make it simple for everybody. When you go out there and you're trying to price something, and you're trying to, I'm trying to figure out when I look at it, what's going to sell this week. Think of an Olympic swimming pool. The person who swims the fastest wins. In real estate, you're in a sector, you're in a pool of whatever, 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms or whatever the neighborhood is. Whatever is the lowest price in the lane is the one that's going to win. It's just that simple. So when you go out there, what is very important is not just the comps or what's closed. What is your competition head-to-head right now?
On the active side.
On the active side. And if there are 3 or 4 things that are priced better than you, which are pretty common, they're going to sell and you're going to sit. And that's what you have to tell the seller. Do you want to be the first thing that goes, or do you want to be in month 6 and more things come on the market? You have to be aggressively priced. That's the only answer, and that's where you have to target. You got to look, more than anything else now, is what is the competition.
I just want to touch on 2 things that you were saying real quick. At the end of the day, it's all about the buyers, okay? It's all about the bids. Don't even think about it. I mean, I was a trader in a past life. Bid, ask, spread. There's a difference between the 2, right? Our job as brokers is to close the spread. And buyers, when they bid, they're bidding on confidence, clarity, and I guess stability is also 3 things. And when you look at what they've been through in the last year and a half, they've been through geopolitical uncertainties, they've been through higher mortgage rates, even though mortgage rates are up 1%. It's at 4%, 4.25%, up for 3.25%.
4.5.
So at an aggregate, that's not a high rate. But has it gotten more unaffordable or less unaffordable over the last year? It's gotten more unaffordable, right? Then you got the SALT deductions. Is that more unaffordable or less unaffordable? That's more unaffordable. Then you got the geopolitical uncertainties. That's just more clouds. And when it comes to buyers, that type of uncertainty will affect their bids. Either they're going to go to the sidelines or they're going to bid less aggressively, all right? And then we're sitting here trying to fill the gap. And the result is higher days on market, higher supply, lower contract activity, lower sales volume. And ultimately, over time, the sales data will show lower listing discounts and worse absorption rates. And that's what's starting to come through now, right? But if something is not trading, I like to say it's one of 3 things. It's either a market problem, which it partially is, a product problem. What's a product problem? I got a 1st floor apartment in the back of a unit that's not renovated with no light, right? We've all had one of those. Those aren't easy sells. You could be the lowest price with that one and that's still not going to sell. Or it's a price problem, right? Most of the time, what do you think it is? A price problem, most of the time. So our job really is just to explain to our seller that their asking price is too high.
I just one thing I want to mention about the increased activity, because I think you're right. When we see the closed prices, they're going to be lower. The thing that I noticed that changed in the last 6 weeks is I'm not getting better bids. I'm just getting bids on things. So I think there's 3 places. If you have a unit that's getting no activity at all, it means you're really out of the ballpark. If you have a unit that's getting bids, but they're not where your seller would like them to be, it means you're in the ballpark, but people are going to bid lower than they used to. And the deals that are getting done is where the seller says, okay, I have an offer, it's not horrible, the person's qualified, and I'm going to go for it. That's where I think we're seeing transactions.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think the buyers are waking up to the fact, and they're hearing so much PR about there being a buyer's market and a good time to buy. So some people are taking advantage of that now, which is, I think, why the activity is picked up.
It's all about having a smart seller now.
Yeah.
A reasonable seller.
Yeah.
I also think we're getting better activity because new sellers are pricing better than the old sellers are.
Right, the new stuff.
So the new stuff coming on is priced more to the market than the stale old stuff where we've got sellers that have just been miserable adapting or refusing to adapt.
Well, that's the best thing we could potentially hope for. And that I would like to think that that's agents doing their job properly and managing their expectations, and the sellers are starting to listen, right? Because that is how we all start to turn around. Once you start to see that contract activity tick up and that supply go down, before you know it, now I don't know when this is going to be, and I'm not predicting a huge resurgence, but I do think that we are at the end of this down cycle or near the end of the cycle. I know Donna disagrees with this, but I do think we're near, like to put innings on it, we're in 7th, 8th inning of this whole thing. I mean, I'm a contrarian, right? If the game ends, you missed it, right? But you may look at the inventory next year at this time and it may be 20% lower. Right? I mean, and think back to the golden years, right? 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, right? No inventory, huge contract activity, and 7 out of 10 deals were going over the asking price, right? It was just crazy. Buyers back then were asking for 3 things. I want more inventory, I want to have a one-on-one negotiation, and for the love of God, I don't want to pay peak prices, I want to get a discount. Where are we today? I'll be just 1 second. Where are we today? You got tons of more options. You got the one-on-one negotiability, and the market has come down. The hit has already happened. We've already got the hit. The question is, do we bounce, do we flatline, or do we go down again, right? And I think we're either going to flatline or more likely come back a little bit, but that won't be shown for another 6 to 8 months. That's all. Well, it's only because the sales data. Yeah. The sales data takes. I mean, we still have a couple of months of weak. We still have January, February, March, April, May of weakness to funnel through the reports. So you have another quarter to deal with.
But that's why we're creating this council, which you guys will hear about in September probably, where we're going to encourage everybody when we call and ask for a contract sign price to give it to each other. Like that will be really helpful for all of us as a community to share that information and then make it a standard.
Yeah, anytime you can get transparency on that kind of stuff. Some agents won't give the information out because they feel like they're letting their seller down or they're doing a disservice.
Oh my God, good luck to that, Tony, because I mean, there are people who I know, like last week I called up and I said, I know you have a contract sign on this townhouse, and they're just bold-faced tell me they don't have a contract sign. They just,
wow.
And I'm like, I know it from the principal, and they just like bold-faced want to tell me, and if this just happens all the time. So I think transparency in our market is better, but it's still a big challenge.
We gotta start somewhere. Look, there's bad people in every industry. So if the good ones, like us who are here, can start the movement, you gotta start somewhere.
Well, and you should also befriend a lot of agents, and this is a great way of networking. Everyone here should be getting each other's cards and seeing what's going on, because you might have a conversation with someone to get that price.
The other thing I want to say is that I think we are all independent contractors. We're all in our own business, okay? I mean, many of you work for large firms, but understand that you're your own brand, you work in your own business, and you get your 1099. So it is really important for you to sharpen and continually sharpen your tech skills. It is hard for many agents who are not that familiar with the system, the listing system, or their company has gone to another listing system, or they're constantly trying to improve it. They also don't know how to do an Excel spreadsheet, and there are some very successful agents out there that I know of who don't even use email. But we are, the buyer today is much more savvy. They want data, they want you to be a business consultant. And I know it's really hard and you have to be disciplined, but the more you can be familiar with the data, understand how your system works, whatever that is, be able to easily use the websites of Acris and Rebney. Those are very important. Be able to use the New York City Department of Buildings website. I do not want to go anymore to listings where I have to tell the broker that their building permit is open. Most brokers, I find, do not even know how to go on the New York City Department of Buildings and look for a building permit. 10 years ago, an open building permit would not hold up your deal. It will today. So it's very important to get around that. In terms of condo, co-op, staging, all of these things are very important into the value. But the market itself is, the big number is price sensitive. Now I want to go over a couple things right now, just to show you the last 7 weeks at 4 million and above, if you don't mind. You know, last year we ended up, the average property on the market at 4 million and above was 433 days on the market. Right now, the last 7 weeks, it was 431 days on the market. The negotiability, the average apartment now has to be reduced 9% before it goes into contract. So that means it's probably selling at 15 to 20% below what the original list price is.
What was it last year? Was it similar?
It was similar. It was 8, and now we're at 9. But the market overall, just to give you an example, in the last 7 weeks that ended on Sunday, this year we sold between townhouses and apartments. We had 123 contracts in that 7-week period of 4 million and above. Last year it was 117, so it's really not that big a difference. In 16, there were 138, but it got skewed because one development downtown decided to report 30 some odd units all at once, you know, that 1 week and threw it out. But we're basically at what we were doing last year. The difference, I think, is that, and this is just anecdotal, I can't put a finger on it, I believe we have fewer phone calls, less traffic in open houses and showings. I think the buyer pool is smaller. The deals may be getting done, but the buyer pool is smaller. And so it's created this anxiety in the market that there, you know, where's the market? It's just not there. I'm not getting the phone calls. I'm not getting the showings. But statistically, at 4 million and above, we are getting basically the same number of contracts signed. However, what they get signed at is going to be a lot lower.
You have to always remember that we go through cycles, okay? And what's different about this cycle is the longevity of it. The last couple of cycles we've been through have not lasted this long. This is like a 2.5-year down cycle, and this is a volume business, okay? Prices may be okay in the resale sector, under $1 million, not down that much, but there's no volume. And if there's no volume, there's no transaction. If there's no transactions, there's no commissions, and that hurts agents and it hurts firms. And that's kind of what we've been dealing with. And I think, I always like to think in markets when prices go down, it's because the prices were wrong. The bids couldn't absorb it. The bids could not produce what the asking prices were expecting them to produce. There was a gap. And I think I think this market has, Manhattan tends to be one of those markets where the sellers are always, it takes them a while to figure out what's going on and get down to it. And this process just took a lot longer because it started in the high end and then it worked its way down to the lower end, and that whole process took about 1.5 years, 2 years. Just for the record, I want to say this. I mean, I put it on Twitter. I'm very bullish right now because when I look at macro, I don't see anything that really is going to cause a major disruption to economic growth. I don't see any crazy things going on in the credit markets or the banking sectors that would do what we had in 2008, 2009. And I think the market is very, very buyer-friendly right now, and you can get those things that we were talking about before. You have options, negotiability, one-on-one, and you can get a discount. And I think in this type of market like Manhattan, we're talking about a premium product here, right? We're not talking about out in, you know, Idaho. When this market goes down, the pickup, when it does turn, it turns fast. And you're not going to be able to get those combination of those three things that buyers are enjoying with leverage right now, all at the same time. So if I was a buyer right now, and who was I talking to that just had a recent high-end buyer and they got a good deal, or I was talking to someone. But I mean, if you're getting 20% off, 25% off the super luxury sector, if you're getting 15, 25% off, 5 to 10 million, if you're getting 10% off, 1 million and under, that's a good deal. That's a good value. And I think if you could show your clients that the hit already happened, they will all of a sudden have a bit more confidence and clarity, and they'll feel less paranoid that the hit is ongoing. Because buyers don't like to buy a depreciating asset. The old expression is they don't want to catch a falling knife. Have you guys heard about that? A knife is falling, they don't want to catch it. But a contrarian investor is looking exactly for a good market that is down and out, that's kind of mature in its cycle, that's been down now for a little while, and it's showing signs of normalization and stability, and it's even showing signs of pickup in the sectors that have been hit the most. And I think that's what's going on right now.
But the question, I guess, is what about consumer confidence? What about how people feel? Because that's the other element that I see is
yes.
The reports are driving that, and it's negative. Consumer confidence is negative, all right? But it's up to the agents to actually show them the data of what's going on. They're not going to find it in the quarterly reports. They're not going to find it in Jonathan Miller reports.
No, you can only, what you need to do is go back to contract sign. You need to show, if you're with a buyer, you need to show them this has been what's the contract activity in your, and go ahead, Lisa.
Well, I have a question. I mean, I hope you're right. That would be great. But, you know, I think what I sometimes worry about, and I think what other people worry about, is what if Trump gets impeached? What is that going to mean for our stock market? You know?
That's all geopolitical uncertainty. That's all uncertain.
Right,
Total
but that
uncertainty.
means that we have more room to go down, because I think one of the reasons that our market has any sustainability is because the stock market continues to be good, and a lot of people don't really believe that that's going to last if something else changes.
Yeah, because a lot of people aren't in it as well. They're just kind of staying out of it.
But you know, interestingly, the Real Deal took my contract signs, and this is like a year or two ago, and they charted it with the stock market, right? And it was amazing. Like, it was just amazing how close it was, you know, with the weeks. But then this year, we didn't go with that. We have gone in a different pathway. And I think overall, New York, as long as I've been doing this since 1980, we always go up. We've always gone up. But we have these times when we go down. And when we go down, like 88 to 92, that was a long down. That was 4 years. One difference, though, now is information moves very quickly, because when we had that last big down, we didn't have the internet. Okay, so now we have a lot of information flowing, and so when we have these corrections or we have a jolt to the system, very often it happens quicker than it probably would have happened years ago. So we can get our hands around it, but you constantly need to say to the consumer, to the person you're with, look, I showed you these 10 things, they're still there, or they're not still there, or this is what's sold, or this is what's selling, so that they can get a pace on the market. God is not going to ring the bell and tell us this is the bottom, okay? It's just not. So you have to...
You were going to do that.
So you just got to, you know, it is a good time, and if somebody is buying and they're going to stay there for 5 years, this is a good opportunity. That's basically the message. And this is their opportunity, which they haven't had in a while, because we're not seeing the bidding wars and the craziness and all of that. The only problem is there's no sense of urgency. So also, anecdotally, talking to attorneys, deals that used to take a week or 8 days, 7 days to sign a contract, they take a month.
Yeah, I just want to say, I mean, the things that you're talking about, I think are priced in. The word priced in. I think, but the things that you're talking about is the main reasons why we've had this cycle to begin with.
Right. And I think when people start talking about it, the hope is, anyway, and that's what you're saying, is that we're coming to the bottom and that we're going to come up. Well, who the heck knows? We'll find out. You know, time will tell. I wanted to know, you know, is it bifurcated in terms of location from the above $4 million market? Like, in other words...
Yes. Very much so.
So what is...
I mean, it's still downtown. The $4 million is still downtown, condos, everybody's going downtown. And I believe that that's not going to go away, because I think we have not hit the next wave of New York. The next wave of New York is going to be different. We have lived all these years off of the financial people. I believe that tech is going to come here, that we will be Silicon Valley East, that creative and capital are meeting here, and that downtown, the Lower East Side, what's going on the Cornell Technion campus. In that campus, which had the first 200 graduates, there were 30 startups. I think this is what's happening here, and I think you're going to see more and more of it. Google continually buying, and that downtown is going to be filled out, and parts of Queens, etc. That will be the next loaded buyer, not necessarily the financial guy. They're just different now.
It's already changed, I think.
Yeah.
I feel like we have a lot more tech people coming here.
No question. and buying some of the and they're more condo oriented, no question. They don't want to get involved in the
They don't come
co-ops.
from New York a lot of times.
No, it's true. It's true.
And what would be the likelihood of co-ops changing to a condo? Because I work with a lot of tech people that are also they're buying downtown, they're looking here, but a lot of them are also looking in Brooklyn. So if you're going to change, I see a lot more co-ops in the Upper East and Upper West. Condos downtown are getting a lot more action, not as much as the co-ops, but I see a lot more up here, at least with the people.
I think it's
I'm
another
working
probably
with.
10 years. I mean, what you need is a lot of people the co-op boards are unfortunately they're way behind, and the people who sit on them are too old. And I mean, seriously, it's an unfortunate thing, and there's a huge disparity in what you get for your price per dollar per square foot. So if you're willing to tolerate that, you can get a very good deal if you're willing to go into the co-op market. But what these people are going to have to come to the realization is, you're going to have eventually shareholder revolts, where just like you have on Wall Street, where activists come and say, "Hey, we could go conduct tomorrow, and our market value will go up 30%." That's a pretty compelling thing, and that there will be some way that will happen, but I don't know if it's going to happen 10 years from now or whatever. But it's got to happen.
But what about changing just instead of being a 50% down building, becoming a 35% down building?
Yeah, all those things.
Or becoming which is an easier thing to change than changing your whole corporate structure.
No, actually, I got called in by a co-op board on the East Side, a very nice one pre-war, and we had this whole discussion, and we priced it out with attorneys. It was sort of like $50,000 to $75,000 to change the docks. And they didn't have enough momentum to do it. They wanted to unlock value. They were looking at it as, I want my portfolio to be higher. But still, it's so hard. Look at how this whole thing has changed. You go into a condo building, right? They have Building Link. They've got many of these buildings, they have a resident manager. We used to call them super, right? Now they're a resident manager.
Yeah.
They have a 6-figure salary. They've got a nice apartment. They've got a car in the garage that is paid for, their cell phone. They're very smart. The people behind the desk are attractive. They know everybody's name. They've got it all going. And then you go to a co-op and you're going like, what the hell is going on here? This is ridiculous. And that's like Park Avenue, Fifth Avenue, Side Street, and you're going like, this just is not working out. And you're taking these young people and they go, that lobby is so depressing. Right. They want to go spend 30% more for a fraction of for 30% more, they get less space, but they get all the amenities and they feel good. Here's the other thing. As New York developed, you have, and you can't lose sight of this, you have people go to work. They're in these high-rise, beautiful buildings, and they have views. They don't want to come home to no view. They're thinking about that. Maybe they want to live like they work. So life has changed. You have Hudson Yards. I remember when Battery Park got developed, we thought, oh my God, these people are crazy. They're going to Battery Park. Battery Park is really nice now, It just changes. And it's like this city's got to be pulled along. And the other problem is the managing agents are far behind. Oh my God. They don't get it. They just they don't get it at all.
They're getting stricter.
And they get tied up in the rigmarole, and we need to sort of simplify things. Why wouldn't anybody want to go into a condo building where they have lots of amenities and the staff is really great and they have the resident manager? You can see why people will pay for that. So I don't think that's going to change.
But why wouldn't an intelligent shareholder want to increase the value of their asset in a co-op?
Because you know what happens? It's so funny about people. I think they have a certain amount of money, they make a certain amount of money, they get comfortable, and they just don't like change. Isn't that terrible? People fundamentally do not like change. So they're living there, they get used to it, and they don't want it. And they'll just live with the crappy super and the lousy staff or whatever's going on, and they don't want change. So, but listen, fascinating, our business, because it's like being in a cocktail party all day. The kinds of people you meet, the kinds of people you're with, they're doing all these interesting things, and seeing these areas develop, like the Lower East Side.
Right.
Remember that?
Yeah.
That's just crazy. I remember when I went into business, we did not go above 90th Street. No way. I mean, yeah, we're up in Harlem. Like, this is great. The city is great, and a lot of foreign investment here. That part, so we will, you know, come up, but getting back to it, it's got to be at a price. We have to be, you know, cognizant that we just cannot continually raise the prices. And for the developers, I don't know if there are any in the room, you know, you got to get with the program, because there are, according to Jonathan Miller, there are 4.5-year supply of new development on the market right now.
And next year is still supposed to be a record high coming on.
Right.
Absolutely.
So in the defense of this project, I don't think there's 4.5 years of supply on the Upper West Side, correct?
Correct. The Upper West Side up here, you know, you've got, well, the Upper West Side in terms of condos did well this year because of 250 West 81st and the water line. That thing is selling.
Yeah, it's come down.
I mean, I didn't think that people were going to go so, you know.
It's an amazing amenities package.
Yeah. So, you know, this thing where people build 100,000 square feet of amenities, 40,000 square, 60,000. That's just, you don't have to be in your apartment. You're in like a country club all day. So I guess that's pretty entertaining. Anyway, that's done well, and so now we have products like this, the Belle Nord, and there's one coming up on West End and 87th Street. So this is a hybrid product. This appeals to, you know, the person who doesn't want to renovate, might buy on Central Park West, but they're going to buy here and not bother to renovate. So that's right.
Yeah, it's a boutique if you don't want those big high-rise, because that's the difference. So it's a boutique type of a building.
Right. I also feel, getting back to that, boutique is very valuable in this city. Interestingly enough, you take an investor in or a buyer and you put them in a Riverside Boulevard building, right? Mm-hmm. And then they're 250 units, and then you think, oh, I got a really good deal per square foot, but guess what? The minute you're closing, there are 30 things on the market for rent, 40 things on the market for rent. So your condo is turning into a rental building. And that's not so cool when you're owning or investing. So I do like the idea of the boutique building. I think there's something to be said for that. And also I like the idea of the buildings that have different floor plans, that it's not just a cookie cutter, that, you know, it's like a limited edition. I like the idea of a limited edition product.
Donna.
Yeah,
we have that.
Yeah, we have a limited edition product.
We have that here.
That's also very nice, because in this market, when you can't just say, oh, well, upstairs sold at this, so I'm going to price it at this, and I should be able to get so much more. Here, every unit is an individual. There's 21 apartments,
but
and nothing is the same, which is what's really cool. It makes it a lot of fun. But I wanted to go back to something from before, because we all want a little bit more activity. We're not seeing a ton of traffic in the open houses, which actually here it's been awesome. But we want to see, how do you get your buyers? Because you mentioned that the data is not great, but yet you feel like we've kind of hit that bottom point. And in order to actually present data to our buyers that are very hesitant, that yes, you can get 15, 20% off on some product, how would you present that data to really actually create that urgency for your own clients to reinvigorate the buying?
That's a great question. Well, first off, I'll just say that with data, most buyers, it adds to confidence. It adds to clarity. Even if the data is not good. Any types of data, when you don't know the data and you're just wondering what's going on, that's clouds. When you're given data, and even though it's not good or not what you want them to see, the clouds tend to part, because now you have an understanding of what's going on. To answer your question, I don't want to plug Urban Digs here, but I mean, Urban Digs has this tool that if I'm a buyer, right, agents can put your buyers on, and you can save a search for them, and you can add listings that they like to a watch list. It's a shared watch list, and I can add something and they can take it out, and they can add something, whatever. But what's cool about it is over time, we have a color-coded status change system. So if it's on the market, it'll be all green. If it's in contract, it'll be orange. If it's off market, it'll be purple. If it's sold, it'll be red. So if my client has been looking for 4 months, and this goes about what you said earlier, and over the last 4 months, he didn't pull the trigger because he's not confident, and out of the 35 things in his searches, he had 10 things on the watch list, but fast forward 4 months, now there's only 2 of them active. 6 of them are in contract, 2 of them closed. It's a great time to say, hey, listen, you're picking out apartments that are selling. All right, you have an eye. You're very good at knowing which apartments have those features that other buyers in the buyer pool are going after and closing. So the next time you find something, we should probably consider maybe placing a bid on it. If it's something that works.
We call that, you don't need somebody else to reconfirm your taste.
Well, I mean, my point is, take it for the sellers, okay? A seller that doesn't want to lower their price. What if you show them every single listing in their sub-neighborhood, for lack of a better word, that they're competing against in the Olympic pool that have lowered their price? I guarantee you 75% of those places already had a price reduction. If you go to that seller and say, this is what we're competing against, there's 30 things we're competing against, there's 20 things we're competing against, and here's 15 of them that have 2 price reductions or more. All of a sudden, it's not such a bad thing to consider a price cut. Other people are doing the exact same thing, right? There's a herd-like mentality with this stuff. It's different for the seller and it's different for the buyer. But as a buyer, if you see the things that you're following sell and go to contract, you're naturally going to think in your head that you're picking out the best products in the group. And it just might help to have a conversation about that for the next time they get a bid. At the end of the day, I just want to say, you can't push someone off the plank. I mean, you can't, if that person doesn't want to do this, it's very hard to have a conversation with them and convince them to do it with full authority right afterwards. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have those people that are just they're too nervous, they're too risk averse, they don't want to do it, they've never done it before, and no amount of data or anything is going to change it. At all times, there's people that won't be changed. But there are people that with data will feel more comfortable, and they'll feel more clear, and they'll feel more certain, and they'll be a little more aggressive in putting that bid in, either at a better level or at a faster level. And that's all we're talking about here.
Okay.
Well, you know, everybody's an independent contractor, and you've got to gauge who's worth putting the time in and who's not. And there are people who you can, if your tech skills are good, you can always stay in front of them with emails. It doesn't mean you have to take them out and suffer, you know. But you never know. Sometimes people, you'd be surprised. Some people just end up pulling the trigger. It's a very weird business, and there is a lot of hard work that goes to it, but there is an element of luck. You know? So I think all of us would have a story about, you know, some lucky thing that happened and some unlucky thing. But I want to say this: it's very important when you take a listing to, and it's a pain in the ass, but to have all the docs right there immediately, either in a Google Drive or Dropbox, so that if you're showing that apartment or whatever it is, that you can, from that showing, just email them the information. It's showing people that you have the information. It gives you the appearance of being highly professional. And you really need to understand, is there something that might come back and bite you in the ass in terms of, you know, something, a big capital improvement or an assessment, or is there something? If there's something like that, you need to have the information right up front, and you need to tell it in paragraph 1. Because when you come forward with some information that isn't to the benefit of the seller, but they're going to find it anyway, and they'll feel it's easier to make a decision. What you don't want to do is start somebody down the road and they're going to want to retrade the price, and then it falls apart. Just if you have bad news or you've got a situation, get it up front and read the docs. You'd be very surprised what's in sometimes in these house rules that, for example, there's a building in the Village, 11 Fifth Avenue. It allows dogs. But it's got a list of about 20 to 25 breeds that are not allowed. And they could be, it ranges from like Yorkies to like a Rottweiler. So, you know, you need to have that, because you're telling people they have dogs, but maybe they have a Yorkie or maybe they have the Rottweiler. But you got to read all these docs. They can, It's very important to have that information. So
Yorkies have bad breath. I can see why they don't want it.
information is critical. Like I told somebody in the room about a great resident manager that was coming to their building, that was a real benefit to the building. This person came from Park Avenue, they're going over here, and this guy is like, they recruited him, and this was a really big thing. Now, can you imagine that in our field now, there are resident managers that are so highly prized that they are taken. Like there was a guy at 10 Gracie Square, very fancy building, and 983 Park grabbed him. That's where it's going. It's interesting. They won't go to a condo yet, but they're working their way to knowing that they have to bring their game up too. And as brokers, don't be afraid of the co-op board. I'm telling you, don't. With your sellers, sometimes you can advocate for change. There was, a bunch of years ago, there was a building in 11 East 86th Street. I had this apartment for sale. I was getting all these young people in, and they would only allow 40% financing, which is a lot. So I told my owner went and talked to the board, and the managing agent, Brown Harris, told them, no, it's consistent with the area. So you know what? I was really pissed. I went and I did an Excel spreadsheet. I showed every single building from 79th to 96th Street and every single one, what was their financing. And you know what? I got it changed to 50%.
That's great.
So don't be afraid to assert yourself, because you can do it in a good way, and sometimes you can advocate for change. Sometimes these buildings are they're nuts. They're doing stupid things.
They don't know it.
And they don't.
Yeah, so true.
That's all very helpful in order to at least help get deals done and get through a board. Deanna, I know that you now you're working with a lot of buyers. You also always work with a lot of sellers, but you're getting a lot of buyer deals done. How are you seeing the conversation changing now that you're working with those buyers to actually getting them to submit offers and getting those deals done?
I mean, I think I'm also very analytical, so I do use a lot of I use a lot of their data to try and get people to, make decisions on, and I think it's pretty evident to the buyers when you take them around. They will see that, that in that Olympic swimming pool, they'll see the lowest price and they'll see the best value. I mean, it's so discernible that, and the problem is you can't take your sellers out and do the same thing, because they always think their baby is the best, they can't see it objectively. So, and even when you are talking with them in that sort of the Olympic pool kind of scheme, they're always saying, well, we're better because. So it's about this, as I say, their baby is the best, nothing else is as good, and that's part of the problem that we are having, that is human nature, frankly. So they bought their apartment for a reason, they fell in love with their apartment for a reason, and so it's a difficult thing to get them off of them loving
I
their
think
space.
what's really hard is also the people who are trying to resell condos, where they paid, X in 13 or 14 or 15, and now that condo is not worth what they paid. And then how do you get them to, realize that they're going to have to take a hit?
Right.
It's, people will accept it in the stock market. They'll say, okay, Facebook took a hit, it's down 20%, but with real estate, oh my God, it's so personal. You got an idea?
The other thing, just in terms of that Olympic swimming pool, is that it's not just price. I find that in a tough market, maintenance becomes a much bigger issue.
Yes, definitely.
So in a market where people don't have a lot of choices and they're running to be the winning bidder, if the maintenance is a little higher than they wanted, they just say, okay, it's fine, I'll figure it out. And in a market where they have a lot to choose from, things that have higher maintenance, they don't even look at them. I mean, they just discount them. I know, I have a land lease on the market now. And I talked to this couple that specializes in land leases only because they live in one, and so I figured they sell them a lot. And they made a really good point to me. They said, in a market like this, who's buying a land lease? Because you don't have to. In a really great market, sometimes that's all that you're left with, because you can get a deal there, everything else is, bidding more. And in a tougher market, in a buyer's market, people just, if there's a high maintenance, they don't look at it. If it's, any other sort of bad pimple, it just,
Right.
they
But
just
you know what? I've seen people do this. I saw a friend of mine do this. She actually put the maintenance lower. not supposed to do that, in the database. And then she gave the buyer like a 5 or a 10-year credit.
We just did that. I had to do it because I didn't even get a call. We took $2,000 off the maintenance, and in the notes we say that we'll pay for the difference of $2,000 for 2 years.
And is it making a difference?
Yeah, it did make a difference. But really, what made a difference is pricing the apartment at $700 a square foot.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's what
Is
it
that the
is. It's priced
Excelsior or something like that?
The problem with those sometimes is you get so low that you get the buyer who really can't afford
Oh,
it.
then you go,
That's
of
the
course you
problem.
do. Then you have people who come in and they say, oh, I can buy $1.5 million 3-bedroom, but no, I can't afford $6,000.
Right, that's the
And then
difficulty.
you have
It's
the
a big
board that
problem.
won't allow the low
And
purchase
the board might,
price.
the board might think it's adversely affecting other shareholders.
Well, you know, we've gone through that with the board where we, you know, you jack up the price and
I
you give
just
them a
did
credit. And you give them a credit,
$300,000 credit.
yeah, so that the cosmetically it looks like they're
Yeah.
hanging on.
But that's not right.
It's not right, but it's, you know, it is what it is.
Well, a lot of developers do that.
Right.
Yeah, that's right, because they
A
want to hold
lot of
on.
developers do that.
Yeah, the developers are doing all kinds of things, you know, with to try to hang on to the price.
Right, which isn't really fair either, because then we have completely skewed comps.
That's right.
I just wish they could actually disclose that. Go ahead.
I was going to go back to your buyer question real quick because I thought it was interesting. I'm just curious, show of hands, are you guys mostly doing your business right now through your buyers or through your listings? How many doing their business through buyers? And how many doing through listings, mostly? Okay, so it looks like there's more agents getting business from buy side than it is from listing side, which is like always, it's different, right?
It's different.
Because I mean, it's always been, it's a listing business, and you recycle the business and you get the buy side going as a complement, right? But just to answer your question about how to get buyers to do the deals, and in terms of buyers, first you got to worry about loyalty, right? There's no such thing as buyer loyalty in this market. So what I used to do, it takes me 3 minutes, is I would go to my site and just send him 5 charts on the neighborhood he's looking in, and right then and there, he's not going to go to anybody else. It took me about 5 minutes. I gave him everything he needs to know on the buildings he wants and on the neighborhood he wants, price per square foot, median sale price, days on market, supply, pending sales, volatility, and everything. He's like blown away. He thinks I have a pulse on the market. He thinks I'm a highly professional. I know what's going on. He's in good hands, and I'm going to give him the stuff he needs. So loyalty's done. Then you got to deal with, is it an A buyer, a B buyer, or a C buyer? And that's what you kind of got to work out, because if it's a C buyer, it might take you 3 months to realize it's a C buyer, right? So you got to kind of figure out which buyers to work with. But that little trick that I was saying with the listings, it only really works with those A or B buyers. If you have someone that is going to just search for a year and a half, it might take you 6 months to realize that. The best seasoned brokers will weed it out really quick. The other agents might take them a little time to kind of weed it out. Like the Deannas of the world does, I bet you they're working with only A buyers right now.
Okay, let me just ask you this. I
buyers, some C
want
buyers.
to know, I noticed about a month ago you were at 7,200 units on the market.
Mm-hmm.
Now the other day you were at 61.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk to them about where the inventory
It's
is?
off market. It's seasonality. This is a seasonal marketplace. That's why you always have to look year over year, by the way. Every single statistic should be year over year. But we're seasonal. What happens in July and August? People take their listings off the market. If you look at my off market, that's like the one missing ingredient. Everyone looks at supply, everyone looks at pending sales, they look at sold, but they don't look at off market. And if you think of what off market's telling you, in times of stress, when the market's weak, off market rises. Why does off market rise? Because if a listing is not selling and the seller's not getting his bids, what is he doing? He's taking the listing off the market. If the market's good and the listing was selling or getting a bid, it's going to go into contract, right? So if you look at off market, it's reflective of 2 things. It's reflective of a weak market and seasonality. We just happen to see that off market go up, supply go down, off market go up in July and August. It's a tough thing to discern whether it's actual a market indicator. I would think it's a seasonality indicator, because in July and August, listings just go from active to off market.
But you know, it's very interesting. I had and I don't know how you all feel about this. You get that question in June. Should I pull my apartment off the market for this summer? And you know, I'm like, no. We just keep going.
Yeah.
Because we just never know who's going to show up. So we have this condominium for sale, and it's almost $14 million or something. And the owner said, should we pull it off the market? And I'm like, no, because, you know, foreign buyers come in. They come in, they might go to the Hamptons, they're in here for a day or two. So we've had a lot of traffic in that thing, which I wasn't really expecting, but you just, the thing is you don't know. So that particular apartment seems to have an attraction for the Asian buyer. But they've been coming through. It hasn't sold yet, but you never know.
But wouldn't you also take it off the market because of the information flow? Because if you take it off for 3 months, it's going to reset on Street Easy and all that. And
they're all going to see it.
I know they're all going to see it, but that's a psychological thing. Oh my gosh, I'm heading now to 200 days on market. Yeah, it's going to be out there, but for the new buyer, maybe anything that's still, I think psychologically, the new buyer is going to say, X days on market, what's wrong? Is it price? Yeah. Is it the apartment quality?
I think you have to, what we have to say to people is, these, in the $4 million and up category, you got to expect that these things are taking over a year to sell. Mm-hmm. That's just life.
But one of the first things you should do is look at days on market for that sector. And if you're in the 4 million plus sector, you definitely have to do this. Because, I mean, I think sellers care about two things. What do they care about? What's the number one thing sellers care about?
Selling at a high price.
What's the second thing they care about?
Quickly. How quickly? Time.
They don't care about anything else. All right, they may love you as a person, but all they care about is how much money am I going to get and how long is it going to take. And they might not say this. Actually, I know for a fact they're not going to say this, but deep down inside they're wondering, at what time should I consider a price reduction? And approximately how much should I consider reducing my price to get it to where you think it is that's reasonable? How many sellers physically go to you and proactively say that? They never do,
right.
But they're wondering it. You should go. The listing pitch should be selling yourself, pricing the apartment, everything you're going to do for them, the whole thing, and it should be a days on market chart. It is taking 84 days for listings in your market to enter contract. If we don't have a bid by day 84, we should sit down and have a conversation to have a price reduction. And if that helps you get a price cut,
but what is a meaningful price reduction?
Well, that's the problem in this declining market. What is it?
I'll tell you. Let me just finish. You can aggregate this through data, right? So if we don't have a bid by day 88, right? If I can help you get a price cut, you just turn data into a conversation to expedite your transaction, right? Use the listing discount. Listing discount is telling you how much the sellers in that neighborhood have to go down to get a deal done.
So
it's a direct number.
Should you just say, okay, I'm just telling you now, on average, you have to right now lower your price by 9% off of whatever your original ask was before you go into contract. So should your direction be overall market, just if you can't go below, you have to just chop 9% off right away?
No, it's a guide. It's one thing. First off, you have to use it as a funnel. Okay, in this market, every building is its own marketplace.
Right.
Every building is its own place. You step out of the building, even though you're in the same neighborhood and sector, every building has its differences that are going to cause a buyer to value one versus the other. So you have to first look at the building. The building will show you what things are selling for. You probably did a comps analysis, and you probably did a comps analysis in the building, and then you did your search and comps analysis outside the building. That's two separate analyses. If you have that data inside the building, and you did your comps report like you're supposed to, you probably have a range of what you think it is, and you probably know that your asking price is probably higher than that range. All right? Most sellers, if I tell a seller, based on the comps in your building, and my analysis, I'm going to go outside in a second, but based on the comps in the building, I expect this to trade somewhere between 1.5 and 1.6. How many sellers say, great, let's price it at 1.4? Let's just be real here. No, they'll price it at 1.75, right? So all of a sudden, you have a place that you should go based on your thing. But outside of that, you should tell them, hey, by the way, it's taking 8%. Sellers have to go down 8% in this sector of the market to get a deal done.
I don't think anything is meaningful unless you take at least 5% off. I really don't.
And also, you're talking about at 1.6 pricing, you're talking about larger buildings. So when you were talking about a lot of the east side and west side buildings that you have 40 units, there isn't a lot of, there aren't a lot of transactions or lines that are equivalent. So, you know, that's where, I mean, I agree. Look, I totally agree that a lot of our sellers are really frothy and they should be cutting their prices, and there's no question.
And you know what throws a big bone into it? Is that if you're at 10A and then you're trying to figure this out, all of a sudden 9A comes on 200,000 lower.
Yeah. Right.
And we know that kind of stuff happens.
And
that redefines the whole landscape, by the way.
All right, and then we have time for one more question.
Anybody else? Lisa?
I just want to make a comment. I think that, you know, what you're saying makes sense if you're looking at it in a purely analytical world. But out on the field, in the trenches, it's not so clear. I mean, so I have two sellers now. one who says, well, below a certain number just doesn't make sense to her because she doesn't have to sell, okay, and she bought it 3 years ago. And I have another couple that are empty nesters and this is their nest egg, but below a certain number with all of the capital gains they have to pay, that doesn't make sense either. So, you know, sometimes you get caught in this very hairy place where they want you to keep it on the market, but they don't want to lower the price.
Right.
And I think that's the hardest part. I mean, I would love to have sellers that would listen to that because trust me, I tell them that. And those are amazing sellers to have. They just cut it and eventually it sells, you're right. But I think that, you know, it's not as linear as that.
Well, you're talking about reality. And if the seller is anchored to a price because they will lose X amount of money at below this price, there's nothing you can do. They may not be a real seller. It's possible the bids will not absorb what they're going to do and they're just not going to sell the property. At all times there are sellers like that. It's not the first time a seller has said, I want no less than $2 million.
I think we have more sellers like that now. Right. We have a lot more disappointed people.
Yes.
That even at the beginning of the process, they thought they were real sellers because they had this idea that they were going to clear a certain amount. And I especially think it's people who have where their piece of real estate is a lot of their net worth.
Right.
Because they get to a place where then they get really scared that they're going to let it go at a number that's not high enough for them for later. So, I mean, I think that's why it's very tough now.
Yeah. And it's an illiquid,
it's very tough to be
and it's an illiquid market with very little price discovery. And our job is to try to tell you what this place is worth without. And look what an appraiser does. An appraiser has a contract with a contract price, and their job is to come up with what it's worth. We do not have a contract, we do not have a contract price, and it's our job to tell you what it's worth. Whose job is harder?
Can I just I want to make one listing. While everybody's busy selling over $4 million, I'm handling the rest of the market. I am noticing now more than ever this August, there are new listings coming on a lot of them. It wasn't like this last year. And I'm talking about, you know, 800 to 2.5 million.
Why wait?
I mean, that's so unusual to me.
No, because the thing is that market is regular people who work.
Right.
They can't go out to the Hamptons.
And also first-time home buyers
who
don't know.
They're always here.
I haven't seen it in past summers. It was always.
You know what? A lot of this past summers is driven by the brokers.
Right.
And they well, wait till after Labor Day. I'm going to give you a wait till after Labor Day story. I got a call from a guy, and he said, can you come over? It's the end of August. I want to list my 7-room apartment. And I said, sure. And I go over there and I said, you know, we're about 10 days away from Labor Day. Why don't we just wait till after Labor Day? Because, you know, that was what everybody did in those days. And so he did. But the problem, and we, you know, I put it on, maybe it was September 7th, and September 8th I got an offer and we're negotiating. And then September 11th came. And then it took me 10 months to get back to what I was. So timing is everything. You can't, you know, it's a sad story, but you cannot, maybe it's just best when you can get that listing and not try to time the market, because August is a weird time. Look what we got going on with Turkey. In August of 1998, we had the Russian ruble thing. We've had weird Augusts. If you study August, it's weird. So you get on the market, and if you can get it sold, you sell it. And you might be the only guy in the lane in the swimming pool, because in September, everybody's putting their market in the pool, their house on the pool. So you don't want to do that. So what the hell? I think it's good. It's regular people. They're out there. Don't go to the Hamptons this weekend. Buy my apartment.
A buyers are always there, even in January. Like, they will still be there because they're actively hunting for something that's perfect.
And I will say this
and
to
they
you.
want it.
I always say this to people, when is the best time to get a deal? You want to time it. End of August, Christmas time. Nobody's here. And the people are freaking out that their apartment that's been on the market all fall, and nobody made an offer, and nobody bid, and it's still there, and new things are going to be on the market in January. It's a great time. So you just
it's a great time to be bullish.
Great time.
I've been expecting things in contract in August. I said, I'm not going away anymore. I'm going to stay and
it's true. It's a good
take
thing.
everybody's.
Strike while they're in time.
I'm sure you've done a deal on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
So there.
All right,
I
well,
like that.
thank everybody for coming.